So speaking, and so you kind of segue into a really great point, which I'd love to, maybe expand on more. So what are some of our best practices for really just email design in general, right? I mean, you mentioned a couple of things like the fat finger syndrome, right? Having links too close to each other in small fonts. But so have you had like, let's say a list of, basic tips, but even, that I guess that go into the best practices for email design, and it could just be it could also be content too. I'm going to turn it over to you. Fire away. Give us your best shot.
Yeah. I'm just going to again emphasize how important planning is in that whole process. That design isn't about the graphics and layout initially. It's about having a plan for the content. It's about knowing your audience, about knowing what your goals are. And I think that can help you really lead you down what best practices apply to you and which ones you can sort of selectively choose at first, especially if you're just getting started. And so when it comes to content and planning, again, know your audience. Who are you sending to? What have they opened in the past? What are their expectations? Are they opted in correctly? Like all of that kind of stuff is really important. Then when it comes to content, it's really shorter is better. People don't read these days. We actually a really good point is we last week did a webinar and we had thousands of people register and it blew us away. And multiple times, we probably sent 5 emails during the course of your experience with engaging with us with this webinar, and every single one of them said that the webinar was going to be recorded, and we literally got hundreds of people asking if the webinar was going to be recorded. And so people don't read, and we can get angry about that, or we can just accept it as fact and like cut half the copy out of our emails and get right to the point and just really emphasize the important parts. And that's why knowing your audience and understanding your goals is really important, because then it's going to help you cut out all that fluff and just get to the point of what's going to resonate with the people you're sending to and what's going to get them to take action. Because really that's the point of email. So then, when we get to the final email itself, we talked about making fonts bigger. You definitely want to do, I would say 16 pixels is a good aim to start, especially for mobile optimized. It sounds a little big, but anything smaller than that, especially if you go 13 pixels or under, iOS, which is what iPad and iPhone operates on, is the operating system, is going to automatically resize fonts that are under 13 pixels. So you might as well at least do 13 as your minimum, but I typically do like 14, 15, 16. I always say I like big buttons, and I cannot lie. It always gets a good chuckle out of folks. A good guideline for that, and this is actually from Apple, the iOS developer guidelines. They say 44 pixels by 44 pixels at a minimum. People say, I don't know what pixels are. I say the rule of thumb, right? That's how big like your thumb is. You want to be able to stick your thumb, on your screen and make sure that it's thumb friendly, that the buttons and the calls to action, that kind of thing are thumb friendly. So not as much copy, bigger fonts, kind of touchable links. And that's the general theme to keep in mind, is that keep it short and sweet and interactive with a touch interface, because that's going to embrace most any sort of mobile or tablet environment that it's out there today.
And then also things like single column, right? Because that also that helps you have the real estate so that,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah, this way you have the real estate so that you're not, you're not forced to squish something because you have, the full width of your phone and your device. I should have brought up my test that I just did. I had done an email test for you through you guys. I'll see if I can pull it up quickly in a minute or two, because I wanted to show everybody, a little bit about that, especially the mobile part of it, because, you were
Sure.
talking about. And the test I did actually was about a confirmation email for a webinar that I'm hosting in about a few weeks. And what I realized was the only thing on there, the only call to action is add to calendar, and it was a
Mhm.
link that you could click on, uses addthisevent.com, and it takes you over so you can add it to your calendar. The thing I realized was, and it looks great, it's beautiful, passed all the tests, but I need to cut out about 2 sentences worth of copy, because on iPhone 6 and 6 Plus it's perfect, but on 5 and on a couple of the Android devices,
Wraps more.
it's like literally just below it. It drove me nuts. I'm like, damn it, now nobody knows what to do. They're going to see this thing and be like, well, now what do I do? I'd rather that big orange button be right front and center for them. So I'm going to try and pull that up, because it'll just really illustrate what you just said, which was to keep things concise and actionable.